Okay, all you need to know about me is that I brought a font that's appropriate for my 20-year-old self. Hope I can get through this. Post-mortem instructions. Don't cut my hair. Don't trim my beard. My life was short enough. When I get off the golden chariot, if the other side exists, I'd like to be mistaken for God, or at least some wild-eyed prophet. Don't let them close my eyes. I want everyone who pauses by my side to think that I am watching them. And watch me. Let the wake go on till there's no doubt I won't climb out of my box. And about the box, don't spend my savings on a bit of showroom dazzle. There's the crate the treadmill came in. We've been saving for a special occasion. This is that occasion. Set the treadmill to dirge and think of me as you walk 10,000 steps. Give me a grave with steps. Not that I'll be using them, just to give the mourners something more terrible to think about than the fact that I won't be coming back. I won't be coming back. So don't waste a thought on me. The sun will still stream through my office window. The cat will still stretch in its warmth. You always hated that cat. Now when you feed it and clean the clumps out of its litter, use the inheritance of curses I've bequeathed you. They used to serve me well. So you start with a joke, right? This is a Philadelphia poem. I'm from South Jersey. I rode the Patco over with about 1,000 teenagers going to a concert in Camden. I'm very happy to be here right now.
Which concert?
21.
What is that?
21 Sacks.
All I heard was, we're going to, I don't know, 21 Pilots, I don't know, 21, they said 21. They said 21 and none of them looked like they were. So. Almost holy. My niece is addicting mice to cocaine. The cause is science, the university is temple, so it's almost holy. Poor little buggers, their tickers get to ticking and pretty soon they dream that they are rats, that they can fly, that they are rats with wings, pigeons soaring over mouse and rat, the god of mice, of rats, of birds, until morning when they'll believe that they are dead. Then the true God comes in a cloud-like lab coat and resurrect the resurrection and the life. I used to dream I was a mouse, but I am only a flea upon a mouse's back. But sometimes the blood is so sweet, I feel I'm the uncle of light, riding bareback and holy through the temple. I lead a monthly poetry workshop down in South Jersey, and I stole one of these prompts from, I knew I wouldn't be able to remember her name. It'll come to me, and 3 o'clock in the morning I'll shout it out to all of you. This is it's an exercise. Oh, Carol Muskie-Dukes. It's an exercise where you give the students translation or abstractions, and their brains translate them into images. So, translations. I give the poetry workshop abstractions: solitude, rage, history. Tell them their brain will translate them into images, into the stuff of poems. Catherine, sharp-eyed and feisty, despite the weight of years, despite the cane, says 1939 to 1945 in response to war. No, I say, what did you see? The light in her eyes shines backwards, and she tells us she might cry. I see Ukraine. I see a school in rubble. from a bomb. I see a little girl in the rubble. That little girl is me. Catherine translates war into an image, now into then, life into death and into life again. Later in the parking lot she jokes, "There's a word in Ukrainian for what I am." "Does it translate?" I ask. "Lazy person," she says. I think of what she's lifted, what she's carried, what she's left behind, and what she's kept. Life is a lazy translation for lived, for the witness of memory, for poems conceived in history, born of solitude and rage. Thank you. Is anybody familiar with the Stafford Poetry Challenge on Facebook? William Stafford famously wrote a poem every day of his life, and someone once asked him, "How do you do that?" And he said, "I lower my standards." I've been participating in the Stafford Writing Challenge, and some days something good happens, some days something not good happens. So I don't want to judge this one. Scheherazade. Tale 423, in which thieves enter the house and decide to take more than jewelry when they find her hidden in a closet. Her husband will come. Her husband will stop them. This is the story she tells herself. Tale number 18, in which the phone doesn't ring. It's after midnight. He is gone. She is alone, and the phone doesn't ring. Tale number 762, in which she is weak, as in tales 47, 333, and 516, she lets him back into the house, her life. Another sequel feels inevitable. Tale 111, in which her friends' stories sound nothing like her own. Weavers whose warp and weft whisper to them in soothing, inscrutable, alien tongues. Tale 64, in which she rages, alone. Tale 212, in which she weeps, alone. Tale 873, which she tells not in her own voice, but in his. How naturally the fictions flow from his lips, how abundant the lies, how willful the suspension of disbelief. Tale 402, which she tells to her dead mother. At story's end, her mother, still dead, remains silent. Tale 1001, in which she feels a great wheel turning, reversing back to beginnings. She starts to take a breath, but forgets the way it's done. Tale 1002, in which even the stories regret being told. I don't think I've been saying thank you, but thank you very much. I divorced from my first wife in 1992, and I still get mail from her, even though I've moved several times since then. And I recently found out that she passed away back in September, and it's an interesting experience mourning someone you haven't seen in 30 years, but whom you still love. Seance. The world of direct marketing is a medium reaching out to you, dearly departed first wife. 3 decades since our divorce and as many changes of address, Progressive still wants you to know you can save when you bundle your insurance. No tarot cards, no crystal ball, just an algorithm that believes we're still together, that believes you're still alive. One flyer seems to say, give us a sign. Show us you're interested in Viking cruises. And now, 8 months since you died, in the inbox of a seldom used email, they want to know, dear dead one, who you plan to vote for in the fall. Of course, you never left me, haunted me long before you actually died. But I'm the only one who should know you're there in the guilty way I go on breathing. The way I venerate the only photo of you I kept, like an icon of a long-lost saint. Now, Facebook necromantically conjures your picture, tells me you're someone I might know. The veil is thin in cyberspace. I click on your image, make you my friend. A friend is better than a ghost, isn't it? Give me a sign. Thank you. I retired after 34 years of teaching high school. I'm feeling much better now. And I retired into the pandemic, which I don't recommend. Wile E. Coyote retires. It's true. You know when it's time to hang up the Acme rocket roller skates and settle like a saguaro in the warm desert sun. No crates left to open, no tunnels left to paint on the bases of mesas. Nothing but time and a life as easy as falling off a cliff. Sometimes you think the desert is a metaphor, its lonely vistas, its unforgiving desolation. Then you come back to yourself, a coyote, not a poet. There's a bounty here, after all, that you never noticed before. Prairie dogs, horned toads, the meaty javelina. You've become quite a foodie, a slow food foodie. Days are your own, but nights are another matter. Desert nights are cold, and no one ever told you how sleep fades away like a mirage. You used to dream of mornings when no alarm would wake you. But even a coyote not poet like you can recognize the irony of the sound that haunts your dreams. Meep, meep. I'm calling it audible. I wasn't going to read this, but Carl mentioned Wallace Stevens. And I was in a group of poets, and somebody posed a ridiculous question that no one should ever pose to a group of poets. Who is a poet that most people like but you don't really care for? You know, what do you think? And I said Wallace Stevens. Gasps. Wallace Stevens speaks to me in dreams because he doesn't speak to me on the page. He and I are not one. He and I and Black Knight are not one. But his voice awakens within me as I dream. Says concupiscence and the lack of a good concordance are not excuse enough. Says anecdote of the lazy reading. Says anecdote of the internet-addled mind. Says sing beyond the genius, beyond the rage for order. Says have a mind of winter and let yourself be haunted by white nightgowns. Says anecdote of resistance. Says anecdote of the one who's lost his way. Says I placed a jar in Tennessee and all you did was lift it to your lips and drink. Says you will awaken and not know which to prefer, the whistling or just after. Says all there is just after the finale of Seam. And I know what he says is true enough for dreams, if not for the mind who dreams them. Bob, I'm not keeping track of time. Bring out the big hook if you have to.
You're at like 13 minutes.
I'm in 13 minutes?
You've been up for 13 minutes.
I've been up for 13 minutes. All right. Good. This is the villanelle. Past light. The light from stars takes years for us to see. Polaris's light, 320 years. Across the void of space. Reality assures that none of us alive will see the light that burns today. Such cosmic fears. The light from stars takes years for us to see. The Magi thought the North Star held the key to Bethlehem. Past light, it now appears. Across the void of space, reality. My father watched old movies on TV with actors who'd been dead for many years. The light from stars takes years for us to see. The past is lit by sepia memories that chill the heart and flood the world with tears across the void of space. Reality. When winter bones grow cold, take it from me. The only light we have is past light. Cheers. Across the void of space, reality. The light from space takes years for us to see. All right. All right. I'm often amazed by which poems, when you send a packet of poems in for publication, which poem they accept, if they accept any.
None.
Yeah, if they accept any. It's like, so this Rattle just accepted this poem, and oh, thanks. And of the bunch I sent in, I thought not this one, but they did.
It's always the weakest one.
Shaking hands with the dead. They took a piece of cadaver and put it in my wrist. Dead ligament better than no ligament at all. I wiggle my thumb, now free of all pain, and think of the rest of the body that gave itself unknowingly to free me of my suffering. The dead are generous that way. Corneas and kidneys, piece by piece, making life more livable for the living. These messiahs among us, the kings of pieces, waiting to live again. They even give their hearts and ask for nothing in return. I'm skipping a couple here. I've recently written, I don't know where this came from, but I recently wrote a series of poems based on the 12 steps of a recovery program as seen through the characters of the book of Genesis. Sodom and Gomorrah admit the exact nature of their wrongs. This is I would say this is a pride poem. So I'll say that title again. Sodom and Gomorrah admit the exact nature of their wrongs. We loved. We exalted in the sensuous enclosures of any heart other than our own. Even hearts of the divine, of angels. Hearts that struck us blind for desiring the bodies that surrounded them. Is freedom wicked? Is it wrong to long for God's own image? The dust, the flesh, the rib, the blood, the will left free to choose. No wonder Lot's wife looked back, one final turning from tyranny back toward the place where bodies knew what bodies craved. Now we are gone, and she a pillar of salt. But see how the oryx approaches, timid at first, but driven by need. Does she feel its tongue flick once, then lick, and lick again? I had a few more poems, but I'm going to close with this one. This is another. I wrote this one separately from those Book of Genesis recovery poems, but I kind of wedged this one in there because just for that. Eve keeps the apple for herself. First the serpent whispered, "Eat, and know what God knows." Then it shook loose the low-hanging fruit. It landed in Eve's outstretched hand with a satisfying plop. Not knowing why, she rubbed the apple vigorously against the bare skin of her forearm, which tingled pleasantly. The tingling spread. "Oh," Eve said, "sleeves. One day there will be sleeves." She gazed into the apple's shine and saw a beautiful woman staring back at her redly. The woman looked hungry. "I'm hungry," Eve thought, and brought the apple to her lips. Kiss, she thought. One day there will be kiss. She bit into the fruit and the garden filled with sound. Singing, she thought. Suddenly there's singing. She swallowed and her eyes followed the path of the bite she had taken. Down, down, down. She marveled at the tapered thatch of hair between her legs. It seemed to point toward the ground. Never noticed that before, she thought. A squared plus B squared equals C squared, she thought. But she didn't know what she meant. "Howdy!" Adam startled her. When she saw him standing between a lion and a wildebeest, the same blank look on all their faces, she hid the bitten apple behind her back. "What you got?" Adam said. "Nothing," Eve answered. "Okay," he said, "I'm just walking these two dogs." Then he walked away, lion on the left, wildebeest on the right. Eve wandered the garden till nightfall, savoring bites of the apple, making it last, renaming all the animals Adam had gotten wrong. Later, the apple gone, Eve lay next to Adam as something strange uncoiled inside her head. Thinking, she thought. This is called thinking. "Look," Adam said, pointing at his penis. "Porcupine," he said. Eve studied the stars. E equals MC squared, Eve's thinking said. "Go to sleep, dear," she said to Adam, "and cover that thing up. God knows no one wants to see it."